Garda station in Donegal. The man remains in custody while the woman has since been released and charged in connection with the investigation, due to appear before Letterkenny District Court on Monday the 11th of May. 2 male Gardaí received treatment in hospital for injuries sustained during the incident and have since been discharged, with An Garda Síochána providing peer support. Gardaí say investigations are ongoing.
Donald Trump says he wants to make the best deal on ending the war in Iran. However, he's warning the clock is ticking for Tehran to reach a peace deal, and only then can the Strait of Hormuz reopen. Meanwhile, a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon has been extended for 3 weeks. Military analyst Sean Bell says it's unusual for the US president not to set a hard deadline for Iran.
President Trump loves his deadlines, doesn't he? And by extending this ceasefire without actually putting the burners on, I think it just genuinely shows he's got no good options. I mean, one of them is to continue the fighting, but quite frankly, the military action so far has not forced Iran to capitulate.
National Broadband Ireland has announced that rural areas near Killybegs will soon be able to connect to high-speed fibre broadband. The connection means that this service is now available to 1,420 homes and businesses in the areas of Killybegs, Mallinbeg and Carrick. 25,474 premises can now pre-order high-speed broadband across Donegal, with 6,917 connections made to date. Works have already been completed in rural areas across the county, including near Ballyshannon, Ardra and Fintown. NBI spokesperson Sandra Dinan says significant progress has been made in the county.
We're making great progress in Donegal under the National Broadband Plan, as almost 25,500 homes, businesses and farms in Donegal can now avail of NBI's high-speed fibre broadband. Fibre connectivity is on the way for a further 1,400 premises near Killybegs, and we're encouraging Donegal residents to check if they can connect at nbi.ie.
And now for the weather. Today will be dry with sunny spells and highest temperatures of 16 to 18 degrees. That's all from the newsroom for now. We'll be back with another update and the obituary notices at 10 o'clock.
Wake up, wait. Kettle on, wait. Toast, wait. Train station, wait. Pay slip, wait. Promotion, wait. Retire, wait.
We spend our whole lives waiting, and when it comes to banking, we've waited long enough. Monzo, a new era of banking. Monzo Bank Europe DAC, trading as Monzo, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. 18 plus T's and C's apply.
The Talk of the Northwest, the Greg Hughes Show on Highland Radio.
And you're very welcome along to the programme this morning. It's Donal Kavanagh standing in for Greg on the show for the last time today. Normality gets resumed on Monday, but you have me for today, and I always love doing this show on a Friday because we have the Friday panel going to introduce you to our 3 guests in just a moment. Just to remind you that if you want to engage with the programme, as always, we welcome your comments, we welcome your views, we welcome your perspectives on the issues we're discussing, and indeed the other issues on the day, those that are taxing you as well. You can call us on 07491 25000. If you're outside the Donegal dialing area, it's 0035374 9125,000. If you want to text us or WhatsApp us, it's 086 60 25000. We're available through electronic means, email comments at highlandradio.com. You can also get us on social media at Highland Radio on X, Highland Hub on Facebook. Also available on other social media channels, and you of course can watch the show as it unfolds live, including our Friday panel, which is all of course on Zoom video. You can watch that unfold on our Facebook pages and also on our YouTube channel, Highland Radio Ireland. But first of all, let's introduce you to our panel this morning, and we'll just go over to Zoom. And first of all, we will say good morning to former Independent Deputy Thomas Pringle. Thomas, a very good morning to you.
Morning, Donal. How are you?
Very well indeed. Ben Harkin, who's the chairperson of Ugra Fianna Fáil in Donegal and also an author. Ben, you're very welcome.
Thanks, Donal. Thanks for having me.
And a long-time friend of the station and the show, columnist and former editor of the Derry Journal, Pat McCart. Pat, hello.
Thank you, Donal.
Great to speak to you all, as always. And as I said, if you want to get in on this discussion, do send us your text or WhatsApp, 086 60 25000. We're going to start with the question of Leo Varadkar and comments Leo Varadkar made last weekend. Now, he made them on the podcast Path to Power, presented by Matt Cooper, and the comments were presented as Leo Varadkar saying that we in urban areas are paying and subsidising people in rural areas. Now, I think I actually did hear the podcast, so it was a little bit more nuanced than that. But let's sort of take the whole issue. Does what Leo Varadkar said point to a new urban-rural divide that needs to be addressed? Pat McCart, I'm going to start with you.
I think it does in a strange sort of way. A couple of years back, Donal, I heard a guy who was an academic. Now, don't ask me where he was from. And he was peddling the same line that rural Ireland, the fact that electricity poles had to be put in to put in service people in rural areas. It costs so much and all this sort of stuff. And he was basically saying that we should all be living in towns, and that rural Ireland was costing a lot of people a lot of money and so on. But the one thing I thought about that, Donal, when you look at Donegal, and Thomas knows this better, a hell of a lot better than I do. We have no service, not a mile of motorway in Donegal, not an inch of railway in Donegal, public railway. If you want cancer services or heart services, you go to Dublin, go to Galway. So the urban areas are getting a hell of a lot more service than we are. So I think there's a balancing act. And I think there is this sort of thing now that there's sort of, farmers are getting subsidies and all the rest of it. Donald, it's a much more, I think to use your term, it's a much more nuanced thing than Varadkar was saying. But there does seem to be this sort of idea now that we should all be living in towns.
See, the funny thing, though, from what I interpreted from what Varadkar actually said, was it was almost sympathetic toward rural Ireland, in the sense that the point he was making is he was contrasting the economy of the 1950s to the economy now. And the point he made was, the actual central point he was making was that in the 50s, the economy was agrarian based. That what was good for the farmer and what was good for rural Ireland was good for the economy. He says now there's been a switch in the economic impetus, that the focus is now on production, the focus is now on what's happening in the towns, what's happening in the urban areas. And he says now what's good for the farmer and what's good for the rural area is not necessarily what's good for the economy.
They got a lot of tax breaks and a lot of subsidies. Farmers. He was basically sort of saying, the farming community, the farmers plead poverty.
Well,
but
he did. But the thing is, you see, the question I always find when you look at this is, do farmers get subsidies? Yes. Now, the question is, how do we frame that question? Do we frame it in terms of farmers get subsidies because they're necessary for various things, including food, including keeping the agricultural economy going, including ensuring that rural areas have a future, or are they getting the subsidies because they're spongers? Now, from what I heard, I don't think there was anything in what Leo Varadkar says that was suggesting farmers are getting subsidies, therefore they're sponging off urban areas, but somehow that's the way the actual debate was framed. Thomas Pringle, I want to bring you in on this, actually, because as Pat said, you know more than most about the lack of services, etc., in rural areas. I don't know, first of all, did you hear the podcast and hear the whole thing, but what was your first reaction when you heard about Leo Varadkar's comments?
Yeah, well, I didn't hear the podcast, Donal, and thankfully I don't spend my time listening to Leo Varadkar spouting on podcasts, so that's... but yeah, look, I mean, the comments is typical of the Dublin mindset and stuff like that there, that, that the country would be only what it is because of Dublin and stuff like that there, and Ireland is a lot more than just rural urban divide or anything like that, and it's pointless to try and divide it, to split it in such a way, and I think it serves from deflecting from other arguments, and I would ask Varadkar, one of the biggest beneficiaries of state aid in this country is businesses and business people and stuff like that there, so what are the businesses in Dublin benefiting from it, and the reason that the farmers are an easy target is because it's all publicly available and it's open, what in terms of CAP and EU aid and stuff like that, that comes to the farming community, so that's very easy to take a pot shot at them, but if you look at how the businesses are supported and the multinationals are supported in this country, I would say they're huge beneficiaries of the state as well, and that should be looked at too. But the other side of it as well is, urban Ireland and this urban-rural divide that they talk about, and most Donegal people wouldn't see somebody who lives on the main street in Glenties as living in rural Ireland, or somebody who lives in the in the main street in Kilmacrennan or something like that there, or and that's our Carndonagh, and that and urban in the Irish context is basically you look at Letterkenny, Ballybofey, Buncrana, possibly Donegal town, Ballyshannon, and that's urban and everywhere else outside that is rural areas. And we are crucified in rural Ireland in terms of lack of investment and lack of structure. And I think what we should be talking about is Ireland as a whole, and and that's what the concentration should be on, and talking about how we can benefit all our citizens.
Ben Harkin, I want to bring you in here, and I've no doubt that De Valera will be rolling in his grave knowing that we've now come to a point in Irish politics where a Fianna Fáil spokesperson is brought in almost to defend what was said by a former Fine Gael Taoiseach, because you are now the representative of the same government that he was involved in. But Ben, what's your take on what Leo Varadkar said and how it was interpreted?
Oh, well, listen, I'm not going to defend it. He was. I thought he was way off anyway. And listen, you could see very quickly, even in his own party, the reaction against it was very swift. I think when you're the Taoiseach of the country, you wear the Taoiseach, you have a responsibility after that. There, I think, to maybe avoid the day-to-day politics. I think Leo Varadkar had a long history of gaffes in his political career. This is more than a gaffe. Obviously, this is something, I think something that was very insulting to a lot of people in rural Ireland. But
I think Tommy Devitt here, inviting you to join myself in.
I think that for him anyway, this was closer to being sort of trying to get a headline on a podcast or something like that there, and trying to get invited back. I think he was probably just looking for the attention of it and the headline of it, to be honest, and I think he got it.
But if that was the case, it was a very silly thing to do, insofar as surely if he had thought about it in those terms, he would know that it would actually elicit the reaction that it did.
Yeah, but I think he knew it was sort of something controversial to say. I think he knew it was sort of going to end up in a headline out of it. I think that I thought anyway, it was just something that sounded silly and irresponsible from someone that sort of was going to like the attention out of it. It was very swiftly, people in Fine Gael, people in Fianna Fáil, people across the political divide denounced it. I thought it was just a crazy thing to say, and I thought it was just silly on his part from a former Taoiseach as well, whatever it had been, a former Dublin politician or something like that there, from a former Taoiseach. I thought it let a lot of people down.
One of the issues that crops up regularly in discussions about what we'll call the urban-rural divide and the difference of life in rural areas compared to urban areas is in education. Thomas, I want to go back to you for a moment, because we heard this week that Fintra National School, which is close to your own base in Killybegs, is actually about to close down now because of a lack of pupils and a lack of numbers into the future. 4 pupils at the moment, no sign of new blood coming into the school. We're now going to see a school closed down in a rural area. What's your take on the Fintra situation, Thomas?
Yeah, it's very disappointing, and the school has been experiencing difficulties for a number of years in attracting students and retaining students, and that unfortunately is a symptom of the decline in population in rural areas, and that the kids aren't available to attend schools, and we see it coming to fruition with the announcement that Fintra has to close, and it's very disappointing for the area and the community, and. Unfortunately, I think it's probably, I hope not, but it's something that will become more common as well, I think, as the population declines and the population moves closer to rural towns and villages as well too. It's going to make it more difficult for schools in the countryside to maintain themselves and continue on. And bizarrely, I think the advent of the Ukrainian people coming to Ireland and stuff like that, they're headed off a lot of that with the local schools and stuff like that there for the time being, and we might see more of it come to fruition now when the Ukrainians our numbers are going down and people are returning back to Ukraine or whatever. The schools might have difficulties again, and it's symptomatic of the urbanisation of Ireland that Leo Varadkar talks about and that he wants to see happening, and that's unfortunately what we may see more of.
And Pat McCarthy does go back, and we're going right back to one of the initial points you made in your opening contribution to us, that the comments that were made some years ago by an economist who suggested that people should be moving out of rural areas and into towns, and the imminent closure of the school in Fintra is an absolute consequence of that view.
Well, if you look back years ago, my wife's from Kavanagh, and I went down there about 50 years ago, and I remember it had its own garage, it had its own bakery, it had its own a laundromat, there are no garages now in Carndonagh. There's no everybody goes to shopping either in Derry or to Letterkenny, and you look at the same places like Kilmacrennan, as Thomas mentioned earlier, Glenties. They used to have their own Garda stations. They used to have their own libraries. They used to have all their. Now everybody travels somewhere else to get there. Everything's been centralised, and I think Varadkar says urban areas, we're the people who pay the bills. I think basically what's happening, we are becoming rural Ireland is dead and gone. Of course, the other side of the story, Donal, is what we're the second biggest exporters of computer software in the world. The days of farming and fishing seem to be behind us.
Ben Harkin, as someone who's based in a what we'll call a rural part of Donegal, your take on this? Do you think rural areas are under threat?
I think that the main threat to rural areas is the fact that I suppose when young people leave, whether they're going to college and that, or whether they're going to work in Dublin, it's just very, very difficult for them to get a place to live in and to set up their life in rural areas. And that's the problem. If you have to set up your life in Dublin, it's very difficult then to come back to whether it's Termon or Glenties or wherever else and set up your life. And that's the big problem, that people just can't get their life started in rural areas.
And it brings in the whole issue then of organisations like the GAA, and I think there's in many ways an argument to be made here that one of the key things that's keeping rural communities together is the GAA, because even though there are these pressures, you've still got places like Termon, you've still got places like Glenties, like Ardra and Gweedore that are putting forward really strong GAA teams, and it's clear that people are either staying within their community or they're coming up every week for training and coming up every week to play, because we've still got rural areas of Donegal putting forward really, really strong GAA teams. And it maybe raises a question, if it wasn't for the GAA, what would rural Ireland really be like?
Well, it's a massive part of the community, and it is that thing of that people come back every weekend to play in the GAA. But yeah, it is the problem if they can't be based here. But yeah, only for the GAA, it's probably that for a lot of places, when Pat was saying there about places that closed down, the GAA in a lot of villages might be the only thing that's still there. The only thing that's sort of still busy during the week might be the GAA pitch and the training facilities and that. So, but listen, we're very lucky in Donegal that we have a strong culture around that and that it keeps our young people involved. It's something that the GAA are very aware of, obviously, with their demographics survey, and it's a massive concern for them, the threat to the GAA across the west coast of Ireland as well.
And long may that remain the case. We're going to take a short break. Back after these.
Newspapers are kindly supplied by Cosgrove Centra, Mountaintop, Letterkenny. Now with the new look Mountaintop Diner.
The Greg Hughes Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Big plans, big dreams. Home improvement loans, borrow up to €80,000. Visit letterkennycu.ie today.
At Eclipse Cinemas, Bundoran and Lifford Strabane, the stars shine brighter. This isn't just a trip to the movies, it's a VIP experience. Sit back in luxury as your favourite pizza,
yummy,
hot food and a cold drink are delivered right to your seat in any studio. But for the ultimate treat, step into the Director's Lounge, our most popular destination. Enjoy the film, enjoy the food and savour the experience. Only at Eclipse Cinemas, Bundoran and Lifford Strabane.
Not all circuses are created equal. Tom Duffy Circus is coming to Letterkenny. Brand new for 2026, it's Ireland's favourite circus. The Big Top will be at the Kiltoy Roundabout this May Bank Holiday weekend. Don't settle for less. Wait for the only circus in Ireland to be awarded the Big Top label, the Oscars in Circus. Book now at duffycircus.com. If it's not at the Kiltoy Roundabout, it's not Tom Duffy's.
Country Sundays at the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny. This Sunday it's Michael English and his band. Doors open 8:15 with music afterwards in McGettigan's Bar. Coming Bank Holiday Sunday 3rd of May, it's Patrick Feeney and his band. But this Sunday, don't miss Michael English and his band at the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny.
At the heart of Donegal, your post office keeps the community ticking, helping neighbours, supporting local businesses and making everyday life a little easier. And if you're an AIB or Bank of Ireland customer, your bank is your post office too. Lodge or withdraw cash 6 days a week at your local post office. An Post, making better happen for communities. Allied Irish Banks plc is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Bank of Ireland is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Join Highland Radio for a fantastic night away to see Westlife live at the 3 Arena on Friday the 18th of September as they celebrate 25 years of hits on their anniversary world tour. For just €290, your package includes return coach transfers, overnight B&B at the 4-star City North Hotel, and standing tickets to the show. Single supplement applies. Leave all the driving to us and enjoy every minute from the journey down to all the big sing-along moments on the night. Spaces are limited, so book now on highlandradio.com or call 074 91 25,000.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is
23 minutes past 9 o'clock. A caller says Leo Varadkar never had to do a day's work in his life. He's had a pampered life. Now look, I'm not here to defend Leo Varadkar, but I don't think anyone ever became a fully qualified doctor by having a pampered life. And I don't think any qualified doctor never did a day's work in their life. It's a hell of a hard job to become a qualified doctor. What has happened in his political career, of course, is another question. Caller says, great job, Donal. You've defended Leo brilliantly. Nobody mentioned his interview with Ryan Tubridy, which wasn't great either. Now, I didn't hear the interview with Ryan Tubridy, but I did, as it happens, hear the podcast interview. I'm not defending anybody. I'm here to put points to a panel, and the panel have, I think, quite expertly and quite comprehensively responded to those comments. A caller says, urban areas rely on rural areas for the most basic need for existence. Look at the big plan to pump water from the Shannon to Dublin. Fair point. Now, I want to talk about, we're moving on, but sort of staying in the same slight bailiwick, because we were talking about rural services, and there's been a big debate this week about where a new bus station in Letterkenny should be. Now, and I'm sure that doesn't mean an awful lot in Killybegs or wherever, but it points to a wider issue, and it's this. I've been covering Donegal County Council meetings now for in excess of 35 years, and I can tell you, back in 1990, as is the case now, there were discussions about lack of bus stops, lack of bus shelters, lack of basic facilities for people waiting for buses right across Donegal. And the fact that we're still talking about the fact that the main bus stop for private buses and coaches in Letterkenny doesn't even have seats, never mind access to a toilet. It points to a general transport infrastructure right across Donegal that's lacking. Thomas Pringle, in terms of bus services, Letterkenny has pretty much nothing outside of the bus Éireann station. I mean, is it any better in Killybegs?
In Killybegs, and I mean, we wouldn't expect to have the same level of services as Letterkenny would have. But you know, I think it's something that's really needs to happen, and there is a need for a main bus station in Letterkenny, and you know, and particularly with the proliferation of buses and bus journeys now as well too. Like, I mean, I think it's vitally important. You know, as I know it's not the same, but in Donegal Town they're looking at relocating the bus stop in Donegal Town as well. And I remember seeing the figure that there's 90 bus movements in Donegal Town at that current bus stop where it is on the Diamond every day, and that's just the public services, not to mention tour buses and stuff like that there. So that's a massive amount of infrastructure. So you can imagine Letterkenny would be probably a multiple of that as well too. And you know, so there is a need for this to be there, and it's vital in infrastructure. Totally. You know, and I think it needs to be done and dusted rather than talked about for another 20, 30 years or whatever. And I think that it needs to happen again. And I think bus stations are going to become more important as well, because as hopefully the rural bus services can roll out a lot more and be more available to people will make that decision and use those services, and we have to make the facilities available for them.
I have to say, I do have a view personally that the local link transport service that we've seen proliferate over the course of the past 10 years, I think that's arguably been one of the biggest success stories in Donegal in terms of infrastructural investment. Certainly in Letterkenny, you see multiple local link buses every time you go out walking, and that wasn't the case even 5 years ago. So local link, I think, in fairness to those behind it, it has been a huge success.
Yeah, it has been, and I think it's hugely more potential as well. It can be done to it, but that needs. You need services available to do that as well. You know, you need the bus stops, you need the bus stations, you need the destinations for them, and you need to link into national services as well too, because people will should be able to use a local link to go travel from, say, Falcara to Dublin, and it should tie in with the national services, and they shouldn't have to walk across Letterkenny or walk across a town to get to the national route. They should be able to just get in a bus station and see that happen, and I think that's vitally important.
Ben Harkin, I'm sure you've spent a fair portion of your time over the years on buses and waiting for buses. In terms of facilities, Donegal, how does it stack up?
Well, I suppose when I was in college in Belfast, it would have been either getting the bus up, I suppose, from Letterkenny, or else getting the train up from Derry. Listen, I'd have to agree on the local link. I think the fact that we know that because we need a new bus stop, that the local link has been a success because more people are using buses. There's just more demand for it. I think last year there were 7 million passenger journeys on local link buses. I know people that get into work in that from Annagry into Letterkenny and that on it. It's a great success, but I suppose with public transport, you want it to be easy to use. You want people to feel comfortable using it. I think the fact that we have a big facility there that's just for bus air and buses, to me, doesn't make any sense when you have buses going an equally long journey from sort of private operators, and they're all sort of in the one area. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's a massive help for infrastructure in Donegal. I think definitely can we link up with national services? Can we link up even with the likes of that there? Derry and stuff like that there, where the train is, could also be an opportunity.
Pat McCart, I want to go to you because one of the classic videos of old Donegal that's available on YouTube features a very, very young cub reporter called Pat McCart sitting on a bus making a journey across Donegal, and it wasn't today or yesterday that was shot. The bus services have changed very much since then.
Certainly, Donal. By the way, Donal, you're probably actually triggered some in my brain. Every Monday when I was working for the Dairy People, and that was 1975, that's how long ago that was, I used to be sent down to West Donegal, down by Falcara, down to Gadour. The bus left at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and the next one back was about 6 o'clock in the evening. So when you're finished for about 2 hours, you had about 7 hours to spend doing nothing with your feet up on a desk or something. So the service is atrocious. But Donal, if you look, I had 2 or 3 brothers living over the years in Sligo, and there's a real town bus service in Sligo. I think there's 3 areas, and they're serviced a bus service every hour. Try getting through Letterkenny. Letterkenny is now just gridlocked non-stop. And I'm bored myself even saying this because everybody's been saying it for years. But remember, I think at the early part of this month, there was an incident where unfortunate, very, very unfortunate, actually, a lady lost her life at the roundabout. And Letterkenny came to almost a standstill. Letterkenny, somebody seriously needs to look about public transport so they can take so many cars off the road. Don't know, at any time in Letterkenny, there must be 10, 15,000 cars sitting in gridlock. And the impact on the environment must be unbelievable. The air quality must be unbelievable. And, even the waste of money. And Donald, I was down the main street with my brother the other day for the first time in a long time. There seemed to be a number of shops closing on the main street because people can't get parking and so on. So the implications of all this are I would say, quite severe. So the powers that be really should really look at providing an adequate transport system. By the way, the final point, Donald, if you're going through Sligo from Donegal and you're heading towards Mayo or Galway, you can get through Sligo in 10 or 15 minutes, no bother whatsoever. Try getting through Letterkenny on a Friday evening when you come as far as the Manor roundabout.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are longer term plans, as we know. Let's say the magic words 10T, which is going to be the salvation to all our problems. But we're not going to see anything really constructively happen with the 10T before the mid 1930s, it seems. It's a very fair point, Pat. A caller says it's embarrassing that Letterkenny lacks a modern integrated transport hub for all providers. So much for the fastest growing town when we can't provide the basics. Another caller says I passed Letterkenny bus pull-in stop last night and there were 4 buses blocking the way of traffic. A little more management of their behaviour by Gardaí might solve a lot of the issues there. Now, yeah, there are certainly issues in terms of the gridlock there, but even one of the things, the basic things we're talking about is if you are getting a non-bus air and bus in Letterkenny. Now, there is a bus air and bus station there which has basic facilities, that's just across the road. But if you're getting one of the private coaches, and there are many, or if you're getting one of the local link services, what you have is, if you're lucky and you're one of the first 10 people to get there, there is a wall you can sit on. And apart from that, there's a shelter under which maybe 7 or 8 people can stand. There is not one single official seat, and if you're wondering about a toilet or any form of comfort stop, you can absolutely forget it. On the Rural Ireland issue, and Leo Varadkar, recorder, says there's no doubt his remarks were deeply misguided. Even his own party colleagues in rural constituencies were concerned over the damage these comments did to the party's rural vote. The Greg Hughes Show on Highland Radio. It's 29 minutes to 10 o'clock. Going to take a short break. Back after these.
The Greg Hughes Show with Letterkenny Credit Union, powering your plans with fast digital loans. Apply online or through our app in minutes and get funds straight into your current account. Easy, quick and convenient. And our digital offering perfectly complements the friendly face-to-face service you know and trust.
Number 5 supplying the sausage rolls.
Number 42's got the tea bags.
And number 11 is bringing the crack.
Street Feast 2026 is happening all over Ireland on the 23rd and 24th of May. Get the neighbourhood together for a potluck lunch and a bit of a shindig. Start a party on your doorstep. Sign up for your free party pack at streetfeast.ie. Proudly supported by Tesco. Every little helps.
When was the last time you stopped and listened to your body? Here's a Holland & Barrett ad break to do just that. Go on, tune into your body's energy levels. Is your brain struggling to focus? Are you about to let out a midday yawn? Or is your body crying out saying, "You've got to show me love"? We know what your body's asking for. In store, online, on the app. Back your body. Holland & Barrett.
Make great photos into beautiful gifts at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Different gift ideas include canvas prints, freestanding or ready-to-hang art blocks, and personalised photo books, perfect to mark any occasion. There's also jigsaws, calendars, mugs, and much more. For details, visit mcgees.ie. Turn your favourite moments into something truly special with McGee's Chemist Letterkenny.
When your projects demand perfection, one tool does it all. It cuts, it drills, it measures things. The Screwfix app, the ultimate tool. Download yours today. Still can't do a breakfast roll with extra brown sauce, mind? Screwfix, no stopping you.
Donegal start their tilt at another Ulster Championship this Sunday, with Down coming to Letterkenny in the last of the provincial quarter-finals. This year Donegal chase an unprecedented 3 Anglo-Celt Cups in a row, and the race for another Ulster title begins with the visit of the Mourne County to the O'Donnell Park. It's a sellout, but if you're not there, tune Highlands Way as we will have the build-up, full match commentary from 3 p.m. and after-match reaction on Sunday Sport.
Donegal action in this year's championship is brought to you by Highland Motors. Time to book your new 262. Test drive one of the new award-winning Renault models at Highland Motors, Mountain Top, Letterkenny.
And I just want to remind you that there is a very comprehensive traffic management programme and parking programme in place for that big game on Sunday. If you want to go to the playback section of the Highland Radio website, you can listen back to Tuesday's Community Garda information slot with Sergeant Ewan Walsh, and Ewan gives us a very comprehensive rundown of the various parking arrangements that are in place. The road is going to be closed from the bottom of Convent Road there at the Old Dunn Stores, and it'll be closed on the other side close to the Ballymacool Park, and people are being urged to park in car parks in Letterkenny if you're coming from the Letterkenny side, or at Ora or other areas if you're coming from the other side, and then to follow the Garda instructions and either walk or take a free shuttle bus from where the road is closed into the actual venue itself. There is provision for disabled parking, but you can listen back to what Ewan Walsh had to say about this on our website, highlandradio.com. A very, very comprehensive rundown of the arrangements for Sunday. And the big message is, of course, it is a sellout, so if you haven't got a ticket, maybe you're out of luck. And if you do have a ticket, please allow yourself plenty of time to travel, park in Letterkenny, and get out there in good time, and may it be a great day. I want to read you a comment actually that came in from a listener. It says that the NSPCA are having their big launch at Buswell's Hotel in Dublin next Wednesday, having closed our Animal Welfare Centre in Ballyar and spent millions on other centres in Longford, Cork, Wicklow and Dublin. Will RTD's protest, as the launch is near the Dáil Animal Welfare in Donegal, has been set back 50 years? I want to put that very briefly actually to the panel. Thomas Pringle, you'll have seen your fair share of protests outside the Dáil over the years. Is this an issue with the launch in Buswell's that people in Donegal should be looking at making their voices heard at?
Well, I think if it's something that people feel very strongly about, yes, they should. I'm not 100% sure in relation to whether how much support there would be for something like that. That's the issue, and sometimes it's better to not to protest if you're not going to have big enough numbers there as well too. Like, and but the animal welfare certainly is something that needs to be done, and to close the shelter or the in Donegal is a step back, I think, and I don't know how things are going to be dealt with in the future in relation to it.
Ben Harkin, is this a fait accompli, or do you believe that perhaps a protest now could have some bearing on the NSPCA's future plans for Donegal?
It wasn't a thing, to be honest, Donal, that I was massively up to speed on.
Yeah.
I suppose it's first I heard about, so I don't know if there's a massive momentum behind it. I'd say, I suppose, like Thomas says there, if there isn't, sometimes a big crowd can kind of nearly take the momentum out of a push for something for protesting. But it'll be interesting to see next week if there is a crowd for it.
Yeah, and Pat McCart, is this one of these cases where a story is big for a while and then it sort of falls off the front page, it falls out of the coverage on air, and perhaps people aren't thinking about this as much as they were perhaps 8-9 months ago when it was a huge story?
Absolutely, Donald. In fact, about 10 years ago, we were walking down at Inch Level and we came across this dog, and it was obviously dying. Somebody had dumped it. And we came, my wife sent me up and I got a tin of food for it and all the rest. And we tried to get in contact with Donegal Pet Rescue. And we discovered that weekend Donegal Pet Rescue closed. So we've had a dog for 10 years that we picked up on a side of the road. So
well,
it is an issue.
That was one lucky dog. I want to move on, and I want to talk about cross-border education, particularly in third level, because we've heard this week about the potential loss of over 100 jobs at Ulster University's Magee campus and 450 jobs across UU's 4 campuses in Northern Ireland. Now, we do know there's been huge cross-border cooperation, driven largely actually by Paul Hannigan, who was the president of the then LYIT before ATU came into existence, and Paul now is a vice president in charge of the Letterkenny campus, but also very much engaged with the cross-border education. However, if we're talking about huge financial shortfalls and job losses at the University of Ulster, is that going to have an impact on the cross-border education cooperation? Pat, I want to stay with you on this one as a man who has vast experience working on both sides of the border and having spent a lot of time obviously in Derry as editor of the Journal and covering stories about the need to expand Magee and expand the university status within the city. Is this something that gives you cause for concern?
Donal, I think it should give us all cause for concern. Basically, the University of Ulster people spent about 360 million on a big fancy new set of buildings in Belfast. They've so overspent, and because of other factors coming into play, they're not getting in a lot of money. They're talking about possibly 100 job losses, 100 plus job losses at Magee. They were talking about expanding Magee in coming years. That's not going to happen. They can, John, I was going to use a rude word, but they can claim all day they're going to do this, going to do that. It's not going to happen. And the whole thing, this thing, Donald, there used to be this talk about a Belfast-Dublin economic corridor. There should be a Derry-Letterkenny economic corridor.
Well, it is. It's called the Northwest Gateway, apparently.
It exists,
Donald, notionally.
It's notion. Thank you. I was trying to think of a word. That's exactly it. It's a notion. It's not reality. And Donald, Letterkenny and Derry, Magee and ATU should be working together. We could offer massive, it's more than the sum of the parts. If the two places got together, we could expand exponentially, offer courses right, left, and centre. And by the way, Derry has the lowest disposable income in the north. Donegal has the lowest disposable income in the south. So is anybody seriously telling me that an alignment of Magee and the ATU would not benefit every which way? The whole thing about nursing, about the veterinary school, about medicine, about everything, it would boost the whole place. So Donald, anybody that says that this doesn't affect us here in the south, they're kidding.
Ben Harkin, as you alluded to earlier, you went to college in Belfast, and I suspect, I don't want to make presumptions. No, I know you were in college a lot more recently than any of the other three of us were. What's your take on this?
Someone that still feels like a good while ago. Listen, it's a massive concern for Donegal. I was reading there, I think in 2024, out of all the students from the Republic that went to, either Ulster University or went to Queen's, 40% of them were from Donegal. So anything that impacts Queen's, anything that impacts Ulster University, is bad for Donegal. I think that, listen, they're sort of trying to say that this deficit, I think they're going to run a 20 million deficit this year, they're going to run a 25 million euro deficit next year. They're saying that it's because of a fall in international student revenue. That's about 6 million, I think, of it that they're expecting. So there's obvious concerns, mismanagement probably you could say, maybe on this Belfast campus as well. But it's a real problem. I think we've had a great success in Donegal with the ATU, and that might have to end up picking up sort of the slack, picking up if there's courses that are going to be dropped out of McGee. But definitely, when we chat about a northwest corridor and that, the fact that connecting between the ATU, between Ulster University, between Queen's, we have 3 top class, third level institutions in the north, and Donegal as well. And it's the fact that they're not linked up more is crazy.
Thomas Pringle, ATU, of course, have a campus in Killybegs on your own doorstep. In terms of the potential for growth in Killybegs, it's huge. And there's no doubt that linkages with Ulster University and cross-border focuses could only be to the benefit of Killybegs. Are you fearful that this is a potential that could go unrealised because of what's happening at UU?
Yeah, I think it's something that we should all be concerned about in Donegal, because and Pat outlined it there too as well. Like, Derry is suffering with Belfast the same way as we are suffering with Dublin. Basically, the focus is all on the capital and on the east and the north. In terms of Belfast, gets all the focus in terms of funding, and Derry is left behind. And Dublin down south, it's Dublin gets all the focus in terms of funding, and Donegal gets left behind. So we should all be concerned about this, and the potential for both colleges to grow and develop is huge, and the potential should be recognised for the whole northwest area as well too. And we had to fight in Killybegs to make sure that the college would stay here and still be here, and now it's going to be an integral part of the ATU, which is important, and we should see the same fight go on for Derry as well too. I mean, McGee has always suffered in terms of the north, in terms of how it develops, and the time needs to take place now where that has got over and it actually develops for the good of everybody and for the good of the whole country as well too. I think that's vitally important.
Traditionally, the college in Killybegs would have been associated with catering, with hotel work, with hospitality management, etc. There is potential for so much more, and there are plans for so much more courses and more mainstream courses to be offered in Killybegs, and for Killybegs to be made a campus that people will go to, not just for one niche area, but for many areas. Is that being properly recognised, or do you believe Killybegs is still being treated very much as the sort of poor relation of Letterkenny?
No, I think the advent of ATU, Atlantic Technical University, has made a big difference in terms of the standing of Killybegs, and I think that, but it still needs to be grown and developed on, and it's at the early stages. There is some rollout of apprenticeship courses and stuff like that that are taking place as well too, which Killybegs is ideally placed for, with the industry around the area and that as well too. And it is true that the traditional cert college and the traditional in terms of cooking and chefing and hotel management and stuff like that is changing and becoming a lesser part, a smaller part of the overall offering of the college. But it does have to be managed and be allowed to continue to grow and supported over the next number of years to become an integral part of the infrastructure, and that's vitally important, and so that should hopefully continue. And I think the Atlantic Technical University recognises that, and but it's like everything, you need to be supported nationally from the government to ensure that those things can continue and grow as well.
Going to take a short break. Before we do, just a few of your comments. Caller says Donal Vradker did have a pampered life. His dad was wealthy. He told young people who didn't have a deposit for a home to get it from their parents. An arrogance beyond belief. All towns are the same at certain times, and as for getting parked, there is plenty. People just don't want to walk. That's the problem, caller says. I'm a bus driver. The bus stop is terrible. Nowhere for buses to park. If you needed to drop off, then have to drive away to find somewhere to park and then try and get back there through the traffic and pick up. It's an accident that will inevitably happen, says a caller. In Athlone last week, similar to Letterkenny, 22,000 population, 7 big hotels, high-tech industry, streets probably narrower than Letterkenny, but traffic moves freely due to a bypass. 12 e-buses provide local transport, a lot of pedestrian zones with people dining outside. Athlone used to be a nightmare to drive through, but good planning and investment has improved life for everyone there. And the caller says, when you're in a PAYE system, it doesn't matter where one lives, we all have to pay equal taxes.
The Greg Hughes Show with Letterkenny Credit Union, offering flexible mortgages up to €600,000 with no hidden fees or charges. Whether you're buying your dream home or thinking of switching your mortgage, make the move to your local, trusted credit union. Learn more at letterkennycu.ie.
Brian McCormick Sports. New Hoka trainers in store and online. Try the new Clifton 10, even softer as you take every stride. New range of colours for men and women. Different widths to suit your feet. Bondi 9. New colours for men and women. Take the Hoka challenge and see what fits you best. If you're road running or walking, maximise your comfort and support at Brian McCormick Sports, Main Street, Letterkenny.
Expressway's brand new fleet is now in service on routes 30 and 32, connecting Donegal, Letterkenny, Cavan and Monaghan to Dublin Airport and Dublin City. Working while you travel, fold-down tables and reliable Wi-Fi let you stay productive on the move. Relaxing on the way home, reclining leather seats mean you can switch off the minute you sit down. Heading to the airport or the city, with onboard USB charging and spacious seating, you'll arrive ready to go. Book your seat now at expressway.ie.
Ready, set, save. This week's Spar Red Value deals are here. Naked Smoothie 300ml range, half price. My Waddy 2-litre blackcurrant and orange no added sugar, half price. And Spar 2-litre still water, 2 for just €1. Enjoy a bag full of Red Value right now under the tree at Spar. Offers available in participating stores while stocks last until April 27th. DRS applies. Customer quotas may apply.
Cap rollover on the table. For more in your Irish Farmers Journal, here's our news editor, Amy Ford.
We hear from Minister Hayden on how the next CAP budget might not be ready for 2028. Kerry milk contracts slammed by producer organisation. What the new TB rules mean for your herd. Plus, don't miss our 40-page silage making special ahead of next week's grass event.
Get the Irish Farmers Journal today in stores or subscribe online. You cannot afford to miss it.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhinney's. Discover the latest styles from your favourite women's wear brands, including Joseph Ribkoff, Naya, Wee, Manari and more. Explore the collection in-store or shop online today at mcilhenneys.com.
We'll dry right across the region today with sunny spells, top temperatures 14 to 18 degrees Celsius with light to moderate southeasterly winds. It'll stay dry tonight again with some clear spells, becoming chilly though with lowest overnight temperatures 1 to 6 degrees Celsius, light easterly or variable breezes. Some showers moving northward over the region tomorrow morning, but the afternoon and evening will be dry apart from 1 or 2 light showers. A fair amount of cloud with some sunny intervals. Top temperatures on Saturday 13 to 16 degrees Celsius in light variable breezes. Let's go back to our panel. And our panel are Thomas Pringle, former Independent Dáil Deputy, Ben Harkin, who's the chairperson of Ugra Fianna Fáil in Donegal and an author, and Pat McCart, columnist and former editor with the Derry Journal. I want to talk about social media and ask the question, should social media platforms be legally and financially liable for the monetised hate generated when their algorithms promote viral clips that lead to the targeted harassment of female and minority politicians? Let's make a comparison, because Taoiseach Micheál Martin made a very similar comment about the tricolour being exploited to a comment made by Senator Eileen Flynn. Yet he didn't face a fraction of the personal vitriol and horrendous commentary that she received online. Is that because of his office, or is it because of her identity? And I want to go to you, Ben Harkin, because we hear more and more and we see more and more instances in which it seems that female politicians online and elsewhere are being targeted, for want of a better word.
Yeah, it's terrible. Donal, like when I started using social media, it was probably a very positive thing, and it seemed like a great thing to connect with people. Now it's just unbelievably negative. Why anyone would put themselves forward on it, it's beggars belief. I think the big thing for me is, no matter sort of what politician or across the political divide people put something up, the comments and the hate that's under it, 99% of it is these anonymous accounts. And to me, I think that's just unacceptable. The fact that sort of people can have anonymous accounts and make money off, whether it's, just saying terrible things, whether it's just sort of spreading rumors, AI generated photos and that. To me, it's crazy. I think that the fact that social media are encouraging this because they know what it drives clicks, they know what it drives money for themselves and then for the users. Something's just definitely broken, I think, in that sort of social contract of social media. I think that if you're going to make money off social media, I think you have to have your name on it. It has to be linked up with an ID or something like that there, because it's just really terrible. I think some of the things that are up by people and the abuse that people face.
Ultimately, though, should Meta or whoever, whatever platform it happens to be, should they be responsible? I'm going to give you an example. Now, this would not happen in a million years, but if you were to say something libelous right now, Highland Radio is held responsible. Highland Radio is deemed to have published that comment. And if we go, Ben Harkin said it, we didn't, that is not a defence. Highland Radio said it, Highland Radio published it, Highland Radio is responsible for it. Should the same be the case for social media companies?
Well, I don't know, should the same be the case, or is the fact that the libel laws in Ireland are a bit ridiculous, in the fact that obviously I could say something on Highland Radio and Highland Radio become responsible for something.
But in the law, we published it.
That's a crazy rule in and of itself. But yeah, I think it's the fact that social media companies have algorithms that they know promote this kind of stuff. And that's the crazy thing. I think, anyway, if users are to get money, are to get paid for their views, for their clicks on social media, then they should have to have their name beside it. You shouldn't be allowed to have anonymous accounts that can sort of just drive this hatred under, people's posts and then get paid for it. It's just crazy.
Thomas Pringle, you work closely with Eileen Flynn, and she's a very good personal friend of yours. You must have been particularly horrified by what you saw over the past number of days.
Yeah, it's shocking, and the pile-on that has been taking place, and shocking, but probably not really surprising, because it is the way social media works. And I think the example you gave, Donal, there was very good, and it's why should it be different for social media companies than it is for Highland Radio or any of the newspapers or anything they got there, because it is their vehicle that allows this to happen, and but the reality is that they're not going to be made accountable. The government has made that clear, but it is the way they make their money, and they while okay, the person that makes the comment might be making money out of it as well, but also the social media company is making money out of it by the engagement, and that's what they're actively pursuing. And I mean, it's shocking the amount of vitriol that you see on all the social media, and it's all being promoted and being bombarded. And the thing about it is too is that if you're somebody that clicks as a like or looks at that, then the social media company decides that you like all that kind of stuff, so they'll bombard you with even more of it. So very quickly your whole stream then becomes all this kind of stuff, and you don't see anything else, and you get into this world then that you think that's what all that people are talking about, and it drives that completely. And that as the companies are making a decision that happens, and they are producing the algorithms that allow that to happen, and I think the companies need to be made responsible for that. But unfortunately, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael won't do that, and that's for sure.
Pat McCart, going to finish with you on this one. You spent your life in journalism. You spent much of it as an editor. You had to watch out for this sort of stuff all the time. You had to be ultra careful with what you published. It seems others don't have to have the same level of care.
No, it's unbelievable. I think the problem is international or global. These big companies are multinational, and nobody seems to be. They're not accountable to anyone. Yet, if they were doing it in Ireland, Donal, I remember getting involved in legal action on a couple of occasions where we were the defendants because of things we said. And you've just pointed out to Ben about the fact that if you said something or Ben said something, that we'd be responsible. You'd be responsible. There's no one responsible. These big companies are getting almost away with murder. But Donal, I think as an Eileen Flynn, she said she's taking 15. I think she said there's 15 texts or whatever it is she got that she's taking to the Gardaí. They're so severe. They're so so hateful and so on. And a simple example. Done last week, I met a farmer who told me that he believed that climate change is now so severe that something needs to be done. I put that up on social media. You should have seen the pylon. I was told, Pat, you should get out more often. I was told, do you still believe in Santa Claus and all the rest? There seemed to be a group, and I'm just following it. If you say COVID was such and such, they'll say, "Oh, you're an idiot." It was set up by people, and it all seems to be coming from a sort of almost American Trump group of people that are very right wing, who also took over a lot of the protests. The very, very legitimate protests about the fuel thing. But there was a lot of this sort of waving the flag, which I find very strange. It's almost if it's organised.
Yeah. It is certainly a worrying one, and also, and there is that contrast that Eileen Flynn got a level of vitriol, it seems, online that Micheál Martin didn't, and it does beg the question: is it because she's a woman? Is it because she's from the traveller community? Is it because of who she is as compared to who he is?
Yeah, that's it. Donal, it is because Eileen's a woman, and even you see. I see comments and that they're from Fianna Fáil women TDs and Fine Gael women TDs. They get far more attacks and stuff like that there than their male counterparts do, and that's obviously orchestrated and driven by people in charge of these accounts and facilitated by the social media companies as well. And then Eileen as a traveller too, which is another part of Irish society that will be attacked at every turnaround as well. And we need to protect people against this kind of stuff, and that means taking on the social media companies, and that isn't going to happen in Ireland at the minute when you consider the social media companies and the contribution they make to corporation tax in the country. So we'll hear all the politicians dancing on pinheads not to talk about the algorithms and what they're doing, but it's the social media companies that actually generate the algorithms, and they create them, and that's what facilitates this kind of attacks on people as well.
And there we leave it. Thomas Pringle, Ben Harkin, Pat McCart. I always say when I get to do this programme on a Friday, the Friday panel is the shortest hour of the week. A wonderful conversation. Thank you, all three of you, for taking part. We're back after the news and obituary notices. To you three gentlemen, thank you very much. A great panel as always.
The Greg Hughes Show with Letterkenny Credit Union. New to borrowing or haven't borrowed in a while? Our welcome loan is here for you. Borrow up to €50,000 at just 5.95% APR with no hidden fees ever. Apply online or in branch today at letterkennycu.ie.
The CFC Interiors retirement sale is going strong, with new lines being added every week.
After 50 years at CFC Interiors, I'm retiring. I'm clearing all of my stock before the new generation take over. Thank you for trusting me with your homes.
With over £4 million of stock to clear, everything must go, with all departments reduced, including sofas, beds, furniture, flooring and homewares. But stock is selling fast. Don't miss out. Visit CFC Interiors, Cookstown, Campsie Derry and Newton Abbey today.
Is bráling a bheith getalt?
Bí muid de hir a getalt mar go éonmuid.
Barry wadling etalt as airfort na sionna.
Tá sé Harbh áisiúil gan daut. Tá teáil slán le éasca.
Agus tá chorclás tefamach den doras.
Is féidir le etalt go leor átainna iontacha.
An roimh Madrid, Frankfurt.
Cad is ar magúni?
Is sé airfort na sionna an áit is fear le hetaltas.
Direct to Glasgow with Loganair. Save time with online check-in and our low-cost parking right at the door. Travel made easy. Book your next trip at loganair.co.uk today. Visit donegalairport.ie for more information. T's and C's apply.
The Basic Income for the Arts scheme is now open. Artists across Ireland are encouraged to apply now for this direct support. If you're a professional artist with an active practice, don't miss out on your chance. The deadline is May 12th, so apply early. Find out more at gov.ie/basic income for the arts, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Get ready for the Falcarra Music Festival Friday 24th until Sunday 26th at Init Neefin Falcarra. Friday features One for the Road, Saturday Derek Ryan and Stacey Breen, Sunday Jimmy Buckley and Conor O'Donnell, plus local artists all weekend. Tickets at the door or discounted weekend tickets are available by searching Falcarra Music Festival on Eventbrite.
Hi, Gavin here from Divers Hyundai in Letterkenny to tell you that 2 Grand Tuesday, our one-off used car sale event, is back this Tuesday the 28th. On the day, all used cars at Divers will have €2,000 off the listed prices online. Yes, 2 grand off every car for one day only. No gimmicks, no games, no joke. That's this coming Tuesday at Divers Hyundai Canal Road, Letterkenny, and we're open 8 to 8 on the day. For details, see diversgarage.ie.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's Katie Gillen with the news at 10 o'clock. The search has been stood down for a missing man from Donegal. This follows the discovery of a body yesterday evening. 22-year-old Cian Gillespie from Carrick had been reported missing from Ballinode in Sligo on Wednesday. Gardaí have thanked the public for their assistance in the search. 2 Gardaí have been injured while attending a call-out in Letterkenny yesterday afternoon. A man and a woman were arrested following the incident. Maggie Chambers reports.
Gardaí received a call to attend a premises on Neil T. Blaney Road at approximately 3 p.m, where they were assaulted by a man aged in his 30s. He was arrested and a woman also aged in her 30s was detained in a Garda station in Donegal. The man remains in custody while the woman has since been released and charged in connection with the investigation, due to appear before Letterkenny District Court on Monday the 11th of May. 2 male Gardaí received treatment in hospital for injuries sustained during the incident and have since been discharged, with An Garda Síochána providing peer support. Gardaí say investigations are ongoing.
The latest social housing construction status report has confirmed that 1,314 new build social homes are now in the delivery pipeline for Donegal. According to the report, 474 homes were under construction across the county as of Q4 of 2025, with a further 840 units at design or tender stage. Nationally, 22,949 new build social homes are in the delivery process, with 9,703 under construction and a further 13,246 units at design or tender stage. The link to the full report can be found on our website highlandradio.com. A Killybegs school has announced they will be closing their doors after this school year. Fincher National School says the Board of Management met on Wednesday to review the situation regarding their future. 1 enrolment has been received during the past week. In a statement on social media, the school says the board will now liaise with the school patron Bishop Niall Call regarding the closure of the school from the end of June. The Department of Children has come under criticism after a dull question on children affected by defective blocks was ruled out of remit. Donegal Deputy Charles Ward had sought to ask Minister Norma Foley about the introduction of trauma hubs for children living in affected homes. The 100% Redress TD pointed to research from Ulster University indicating children may be experiencing anxiety and depression, similar to findings among adults. However, the department said the issue falls under housing, not children. Deputy Ward says children in the county must receive the mental health supports they deserve.
During a QPL, my time was cut again to 30 seconds, and I addressed the Taoiseach directly and told him that I wanted this answered, which he said he would. Then I met Mary Butler, the Chief Whip, regarding getting this sorted out, because it's unacceptable that children in Donegal aren't getting the mental health services that they need, and they can't silence us. We're not going to go away. We're going to keep on going at them until they realise that there's a mental health issue going with the defective concrete.
The department has been contacted for comment. City of Derry Airport has launched its Marian Pilgrimages 2026 summer programme. They are inviting pilgrims across the northwest to experience spiritual reflection and cultural exploration in one of the world's most well-known pilgrimage destinations. On Wednesday, the first charter of the summer departed from City of Derry Airport to Mostar International Airport, making the short journey to Medjugorje, Bosnia and Herzegovina. The airport says the pilgrimage programme is designed to accommodate first-time visitors and seasoned pilgrims, as well as anyone who may not necessarily be religious but are seeking a spiritual and healing break. National Broadband Ireland has announced that rural areas near Killybegs will soon be able to connect to high-speed fibre broadband. The connection means that this service is now available to 1,420 homes and businesses in the areas of Killybegs, Mallinbeg and Carrick. 25,474 premises can now pre-order or order high-speed broadband across Donegal, with 6,917 connections made to date. Works have already been completed in rural areas across the county, including near Ballyshannon, Ardra and Fintown. NBI spokesperson Sandra Dinan says significant progress has been made in the county.
We're making great progress in Donegal under the National Broadband Plan, as almost 25,500 homes, businesses and farms in Donegal can now avail of NBI's high-speed fibre broadband. Fibre connectivity is on the way for a further 1,400 premises near Killybegs, and we're encouraging Donegal residents to check if they can connect at nbi.ie.
And now for the weather. Today will be dry with sunny spells, with high temperatures of 16 to 18 degrees. That's all from the newsroom for now. We'll be back with the headlines at 11 o'clock. The obituary notices for this Friday morning, April 24th. The death has taken place of Bernard Barney Gibbons, Woodlands, Letterkenny. Barney's remains will repose at his late residence from 1 o'clock today until 10 o'clock, and tomorrow from 11 a.m. till 10 p.m. Rosary both nights at 9 o'clock. Funeral from there on Sunday afternoon, going to the Church of the Irish Martyrs at 1 o'clock, followed by interment in Conwell Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on the church YouTube channel. Family time on the morning of the funeral. The death has occurred in Glasgow of John Joseph John Joe Craig, formerly of St Finian's Park, Moville. Funeral will take place on Wednesday the 6th of May at St Columkille's RC Church at 10 o'clock. Interment thereafter at the Lynn Cemetery, Glasgow. Family flowers only, donations in lieu if desired to the family charities, care of Desmond Maguire, Funeral Directors, Glasgow. The death has occurred of Margaret Breslin, Glasgow, and Gortony Quigley's Point. Her remains are reposing at Gortony Quigley's Point. Funeral from there tomorrow at 1:15 for 2 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Columba's Church, Drung, followed by a burial in the adjoining graveyard. Live stream of the Requiem Mass can be viewed live on mcn.live. The death has taken place of Helen Doherty, Macalini Con Anna Clonmany, reposing at her home. Funeral leaving there tomorrow at 1:20, going to St Mary's Church, Clonmany for Requiem Mass at 2 o'clock, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. And the death has taken place of Eileen Moore, Nee Delap, Swilly View, Ballymaloe, Letterkenny. Eileen's remains will repose at her late residence today from 12 noon until 10 o'clock. Funeral from there tomorrow at 3:15, going to Conwell Parish Church, Church Lane, Letterkenny, for 4 o'clock funeral service of Thanksgiving, which can be viewed live on Craig's Media Facebook page. Interment afterwards to Gortley Cemetery, Letterkenny. Family time before the funeral, please. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers, if desired, to the Emergency Department at Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Dad, how does Mommy know a superhero called Quiva?
Quiva? Aviva. Mammy got new home insurance from the superheroes at Aviva.
Why are they superheroes at Aviva?
Because they helped her save 20%.
For 20% off home insurance when you buy online, it takes Aviva. Offer available when you take out a new policy online. Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. Offer subject to minimum premium of €230 for home insurance, €115 for contents or buildings only. Home insurance is underwritten by Aviva Insurance Ireland DAC. Aviva Direct Ireland Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
And you welcome back to the Greg Hughes Show. It's the second hour of the programme this morning. It's Donal Kavanagh in the hot seat filling in for Greg today for the final time. Greg back as usual on Monday. Well, if you were listening to Lee on the Naughty Alarm Clock this morning, you'll know that Rita Bradley in Ballinfad, Trenta is a very popular lady today. It's her 99th birthday, and a very happy birthday, Rita, from your three grandchildren in London, Niall, Huel and Lyndon, and their partners, and your three great-grandchildren as well. Wishing Rita Bradley a very happy and blessed 99th birthday. This lady is such a beautiful person, both inside and out. That one from John and Eileen. And happy birthday to a lovely lady, Rita Bradley, and that's from Gary and all the staff at Classic Blinds, and so say all of us. B&S Credit Union in Ballybofey are hosting a Boil the Kettle event this morning from 11 until 1 in support of Relay for Life. Call in for a cuppa, some lovely treats and a great cause. All support for this deserving charity is truly appreciated. Glad to give that. That's BNS Credit Union in Ballybofey. That event taking place from 11 until 1 today. An issue that's been highlighted a number of times with regards to health coverage in Letterkenny is that of the lack of neurological services, particularly in terms of diagnosis and treatment for conditions such as Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis and epilepsy. And indeed, the Neurological Alliance of Ireland some time ago identified areas where there are gaps, and Letterkenny, as I recall, was one of those areas. Now, we're joined on the line by the Chief Executive of the Neurological Alliance of Ireland, Magdalene Rogers. Magdalene, a very good morning to you.
Morning, Donal.
In terms of the gaps in service across the country, as I say, my recollection is Letterkenny was one of the areas highlighted as a hospital and an area in need of concern. Has anything happened since the publication of that some time ago to suggest the situation is any better here or elsewhere in the country?
So, Donal, I have a slightly better good news story for the Northwest this morning, in that we did, as you recall so well, we did campaign for a consultant neurology post for Letterkenny a couple of years ago. Now that campaign was successful thanks to the support of your listeners. So that post is a locum in that post at the moment, and the post is being appointed. So that is very positive. Now, there will be, I suppose, a need for further investment in Letterkenny Hospital. There are 2 neurologists recommended for Letterkenny in the longer term. But I suppose it is a positive story that that appointment has been progressed in Letterkenny. However, what we saw with the report that was published this week, we are still seeing significant issues in other hospitals. And I suppose relating back to Letterkenny, a lot of people, they can be seen by a neurologist in Letterkenny, but a lot of the tests and a lot of the follow-up they would need is still based in the likes of Sligo Hospital, and that's where we're seeing the gaps from the research that was published this week. So gaps in services like speech and language therapy, neuropsychology, things like access to a dietitian. The Northwest would still be very underserved when it comes to accessing those services, what we call a multidisciplinary team for people with neurological conditions. So it feels like we've got on the first rung of the ladder with the appointment of a neurologist in Letterkenny, but there is a whole suite of wraparound services that people with neurological conditions need, and that is where we need to focus efforts in the coming months and years, so that people in the Northwest can get the same level of service that is available in larger population centres.
And presumably then we're still at the point where a large number of people, once the issue is identified by that professional now in place, as you say, in Letterkenny, in order to avail of services and backup, that's when they're probably still going to have to travel to Sligo and potentially even to Galway.
Exactly. And we still have a situation, as I say, I know that appointment is progressing for the neurologist in Letterkenny. We still have a situation where there's over 1,700 people on waiting lists for neurology across the Northwest. So all of this is still taking time to drill through to benefit patients. And as I say, what we're seeing then is those gaps in those ongoing services. Sligo, Galway critically need to be resourced to provide that full neurology service for the Northwest. It is great that there is going to be a proper satellite service for Letterkenny. That has been critically needed, and that's been in report after report, and finally there is some headway on getting that established. But the Northwest needs to be in ways self-sufficient in neurology that it really isn't when it's compared to other areas of the country. As I say, over 1,700 people still on waiting lists for neurology. And there's I suppose the hub services in the likes of Galway and Sligo nowhere near where they should be in terms of things like speech and language therapy, dedicated neuropsychology, dietitian services. People having to travel outside of the region for these services are just not getting the same level of service as in other parts of the country.
And the reality too is,
I suppose the takeaway.
The reality too is for every person that has to travel from Donegal to Sligo or to Galway to avail of, be it speech and language or whatever, that's one less place available for those in Sligo and those in Galway. And I've no doubt the demand for these services in Sligo and Galway already outstrips the level of resources available to meet that demand. So what you're doing is you're taking people from Donegal and sending them to an area that's already oversubscribed and already under huge demand. So the more you can actually provide in Letterkenny, you're not only taking the pressure off people locally that now don't have to travel, you're also taking the pressure off people in Sligo and taking the pressure off people in Galway. So I'm sure those in Sligo and Galway would love to see more services available in Letterkenny, because it's going to take the pressure off them.
Exactly. And what we need to see fundamentally is we need to see a proper hub developed in Galway and Sligo, so that in the northwest. So the whole movement is towards a hub and spoke for neurology, and that's why we published this report this week saying, yes, there is absolutely a need, but we need to have a baseline of service provision in the areas outside Dublin. We need the likes of Galway, Sligo, Letterkenny to be developed as neurology centres. Letterkenny is a satellite neurology centre for Sligo, but Sligo needs to be developed to a level where it can provide support to patients travelling from Donegal, and also that when people are seen by the visiting neurologist in Letterkenny, if they need complex care, if they need additional diagnostic tests, that Sligo is properly resourced as a centre in the northwest to provide those services to people.
What next in terms of the campaign to have the issues in this report taken on board by government and, more importantly, actioned?
So we welcome the government's commitment to that hub and spoke model, and that's been worked on at the moment, should be published in the coming months. And as I say, that's why we brought out our report, was to inform the hub and spoke model and to provide that, I suppose, that insight into what are the gaps across the country. So we really want to see that model published, but we also want to see that resourcing of regional services. We're still seeing 10 years on from the publication of the model of care for neurology in Ireland. We're still seeing this week such significant gaps around the country. And it feels like we're going at this piecemeal, putting a neurologist in place here and a neurologist in place there. What there needs to be is a root and branch investment in neurology services in the country to bring them up to where they need to be, to provide that baseline for regional hubs. And as I say, there's nothing new here. There was a report published by the Sale to Hospital Group in 2024 that recommended all of this, that Galway, Letterkenny and Sligo would all be resourced to provide a proper integrated neurology service for the Northwest. And that's what we're calling for with the publication of our report this week, is for that report to be implemented, for all of the reports and policy to be implemented, so the people in the Northwest are getting the same level of neurology service as other areas of the country. And to borrow a phrase from an old political campaign, when it comes to services in Letterkenny, a lot done, more to do. Completely. We've got, as I say, we're halfway there with the neurologist that's in place. There is another post recommended for Letterkenny in that Sale to report. And as I say, what we need are services, a root and branch for neurology services in the Northwest to be where they need to be, so that people are not travelling huge distances to Dublin or to other population centres for access things like speech and language therapy, physiotherapy, neuropsychology, because this is not like ordinary speech and language therapy in the community, which has a range of responsibilities of seeing everyone from hip fractures to falls. This is specialist neurophysiotherapy and neuropsychology that really needs to be properly resourced within a neurology centre. Magdalene Rogers, the Chief Executive of the Neurological Alliance of Ireland, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. Thank you, Donal. It's our pleasure. That's Magdalene there, the Chief Executive, as we say, of the Neurological Alliance of Ireland, with more to be done in terms of the provision of neurological services across the Northwest. Again, happy birthday to Rita Bradley of Ballinfad, Letterkenny, 99 years young today. Wishing her a lovely day, and we'll see you later for the scones. And that's from Alan and Sandra McRae. Now, we are going to take a short break, and if you play Highland Radio Vision Ireland Radio Bingo, then we will invite you to grab your books and grab your pens, and without further ado, we will hand you over to Canis.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday, the 24th of April. You're playing on the yellow sheet for the daily prize of €400. The reference number is S5. It's game number 17. The numbers are 65, 48, 12, 45, 6, 20, 41, 88, 32, and finally 63. Phone your claim to 9104833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
This is the sound of one very happy Britain Insurance customer heading off to the sun. Happy that we're able to find her a great value home policy that covers even the unlikeliest of events. For home insurance, go to britainsurance.ie. You're secure when you insure with Britain Insurance. Pat Britain & Co Limited, trading as Britain Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
0% finance is back on used Kia EVs at iMotors. Looking for an electric upgrade? Get 0% APR on all used Kia EVs this April. That's 4 years, no interest. Want to finance over 5 years? We also have 1.9% available. With incredible choice available, this is a deal you don't want to miss. Visit our showrooms in Drumkeen or Malin and take your test drive today.
iMotors, fearless generation.
Celebrate love in style at Villa Rose Hotel and Spa. Say I do at Villa Rose Hotel and Spa, Ballybuffet, where elegance and romance inspire each celebration. Intimate ceremonies or grand celebrations, every moment is perfectly designed. Begin planning your wedding today at villarose.ie.
Cut your motoring costs with Heron Auto Donegal Town. Just €50 can take you up to 800 kilometres. With over 7 new Kia EV models in stock and the all-new EV2 arriving this April, there's never been a better time to go electric. Enjoy 0% finance and a free home charger. So why wait? Call Heron Auto today. Drive with confidence. Drive with Heron Auto Donegal Town.
The Greg Hughes Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Big plans, big dreams. Home improvement loans, borrow up to €80,000. Visit letterkennycu.ie today.
It's the Greg Hughes Show on Highland Radio with Donal Kavanagh until 11 o'clock this morning. Now, like many people over the course of the past few weeks, I stayed up to watch the Artemis 2 take off from Cape Canaveral, the Kennedy Space Station there, and I stayed up until the wee small hours 11 days later to watch Artemis 2, the crew module, land in the sea off San Diego and the 4 astronauts on board return safely to Earth. Now, we all know the first moon landing was carried out by Apollo 11, the giant leap for mankind, which is etched in history forever. But did you know that that journey to the moon had a secret link to Inver? Now, this week on the Greg Hughes podcast, Greg is joined by Dr. Peter Coyle. Now, unlike other people all around the world, he wasn't watching history. He was actually helping to build it, from his work on the space capsule's protection to his journey from Donegal to the heart of the space race. You can hear the incredible story of a local legend, and that's coming up on the Greg Hughes podcast. It will be available on highlandradio.com, on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, from 11 o'clock this morning. And just to give you a sneak preview of what the conversation sounds like, here's a clip of Greg's conversation with Dr. Peter Coyle.
Yeah, just reflecting on that mission as a whole, like everything was computed, everything was tested. It was all science. It was all effort. It was astonishing to bring so many people together in the way that was done. But it still remains or feels truly remarkable, even so many years, almost a lifetime removed from it. How much of it was just everybody getting absolutely everything right, and how much of it was just a remarkable tailwind that sort of meant that all of the computing came to pass?
Well, let me give you an example there. I'm sorry, Editor. They were testing the command module for a different Apollo mission, 7 or 8, I think it was, on the ground. And 3 astronauts were killed in the capsule, the lunar module. on the ground. And the reason they were killed was that the smart guys had decided that the internal part of there was too much oxygen in it, 16 pounds per square inch in the lunar model. And the door opened only from the inside. You couldn't open it from the outside. So here's an example of where 3 people got killed on the ground because of 2 miscalculations. So they redesigned it and put the door, you could open it from the outside so people could get at it, and they dropped the oxygen down to normal levels. And these things were experiments on the ground where we saw these mistakes being made. You see? But 3 people died on that experiment. So I don't know if that answers it in part.
No, it does. It does. It does. And they in sacrificing their lives played a crucial part in the whole story as well. I think we could conclude.
Well, you know, the thing that ignited the oxygen in the Apollo 7 or 8 was a bad wire. It wasn't wired properly.
Wow.
So, I mean, we've seen this with Boeing in the last 20 years with some of those big 747s and some of the big planes they're making, wires that weren't going the right place. I mean, it's so complex, you know, people just suddenly decide that, well, maybe it goes here. That's fatal.
Yeah. Now,
you got to know exactly where it's going.
One of the things about this whole journey for me, which was fascinating, was when the American Defence Attaché, Colonel Joseph F. O'Connor, travelled all the way to South Donegal to honour your mother, Florence. This was in 1969. Was it the cinema in Donegal town?
Yes.
It's that as well. I was in there and I never realised this history even existed. Well, he travelled over here to effectively thank her for your work, which I also think is a quite an interesting little thing. Did the penny drop at home, not even outside the family, but with the family, on what you were actually doing over in America? Because of course we didn't have we didn't have video calling, we didn't have the technology we're speaking on right now. I'm not saying you didn't have contact with home, but to have this American land over here and say, you know, Florence, your son's amazing, look what he's achieved. Like, what was that? What was the reaction in the family or in the community or what?
Well, my family, I'm one of 8 kids, and my family are all, we're all get on very well, and we're accept what the other one's doing or not doing, and we never really were very inquisitive about it. And I don't remember anybody clapping me on the back and saying something like that. And my poor mother always exaggerated, that I was a genius or I was this or I was that, and I was highly embarrassed. But the colonel came up and gave her a big, big check. They spent $24 billion by '89 on this program, and I think that's about 215 billion or something in today's dollars. And he gave her the big sum of 40 pounds.
Oh wow!
Oh, something else.
Astonishing, isn't it?
100, I would say.
But I mean, if something like that happened now, and I'm not sure what the media coverage was at the time, but that would be live everywhere. I mean, as a journalist in Donegal, this would just have been the biggest story that I could cover. I presume the national media would have been all over it, if not Sky News and every other channel. It's just like it was maybe I'm overstating it, but that's how it feels to me, Doctor.
Well, there was no real coverage of it. Nobody stopped me on the street and congratulated me or anything like that. I think so many good Irish people have gone abroad and done well and contributed to many good things. And I think it's accepted. It was like when President Kennedy came back to Ireland, and when that was 62 or something. And I mean, he was a hero, one of the rich, affluent, good-looking, powerful politicians, and he was set up almost as a saint. And I think that's because he was successful, and the Kennedys were successful. And I think all the people staying at home, I mean, I remember when I was at UCD, there was 70 or 80,000 people a year leaving this country.
Yeah.
And we reached a stage where I think there was only 2.8 million people left, or 3.8 million, I can't remember. And so anybody that did anything good or achieved something, I think people here accepted it and for what it was, and they didn't go out making a big issue about it or anything. Could be totally wrong about that. It's just my feeling.
And that was Dr. Peter Coyle, who was working with Dow Chemicals back in the 1960s. He was instrumental in developing a resin. A resin, you ask. What difference did a resin make? Well, I'll tell you what. Had that resin not been wrapped around the capsule as it re-entered the atmosphere, the capsule would have burned up. And Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins would not have made it home. Peter Coyle, instrumental in bringing the 3 astronauts back from the moon. And that was a huge achievement. And you can listen to that full podcast from 11 o'clock right across our own website and Spotify and iTunes as well. To more mundane matters, but very important matters. Earlier this week, we saw a gorse fire, wildfire, call it what you will, in the vicinity of Knockybrin Hill outside Letterkenny. And last evening, and indeed overnight, we saw similar wildfires break out in North Inishowen in the vicinity of Clonmany and Ballyliffin. We are joined on the programme now by Gary Martin, who is the Director of Human Resources, Economic Development and Emergency Services with Donegal County Council. Gary, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Donal.
Gary, I suppose you're always aware when it comes into this time of year. It's April, we start getting a bit of dry weather, there's a lot of gorse out there and the ground starts to dry up, and we did indeed have an orange warning issued by the council through the National Fire Service literally hours before the Knockybrin fire. This is almost predictable, and I'm sure this is something that you and your colleagues are preparing for.
Yeah, it's something we prepare for every year, Donal. The reality is that this time of year, obviously, the ground does start to dry out, thankfully. But what that actually does, it leaves a substantial fire load, basically old grass, undergrowth, moss, heather, whins and so on and so forth, much more susceptible to fire. And that's why nationally there are orange warnings issued by the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage every year when weather conditions present as they are doing now at the moment. And on the back of that, obviously, we prepare our resources across the county are set up to respond to that. And this week we've seen a number of instances, as you've reflected there. We had one there outside Letterkenny midweek, and then we had a fairly extensive one overnight at Anna and Clonmany as well. And we had a substantial response to that. We had 4 appliances and over 40 firefighters fighting it from shortly after 8 p.m. last night through to this morning. There's still a number of appliances on the ground there. It's under control, not fully out yet. They're just waiting to get it to a point where they can knock it down safely. But overnight, I just want to commend the crews. Very difficult conditions, very heavy ground to be working in. Very, very large scale moss, heather and whins, and difficult ground to work through and difficult ground to fight back fires. But the important thing, I suppose, to note last night, where the fire started, actually, it did put at risk a number of properties, a number of premises. And the first, I suppose, objective was to try to ensure that they were protected and using the compressed air foam system that we have. We basically, I suppose, set a cordon around those houses to make sure that the fire couldn't spread to them. And thankfully that worked. And it ensured that none of the properties were damaged as a result of that. But a good piece of work overnight by our crews from Cairndonagh, Buncrana and Moville.
And indeed, we've had a message in from Nancy's Barn in Ballyliffin, Nancy's Barn, saying a big shout out to all the hard-working firefighters and emergency crews working all night in the Clonmany and Ballyliffin area, calling for free tea, coffee and breakfast back this morning. Thank you all sincerely. It's at times like this when you realise how much we need our emergency services, and given that many of the firefighters in this county, Gary, are retained firefighters, and they're not full-time employees, they do other things as well, and they make themselves available and they put themselves on call. It's a huge commitment, and their importance being underlined now this week.
Absolutely. It's like any of the emergency services, whether it's the Gardaí, the HSE, National Ambulance Service or Fire Service, they're there to respond in the event of an incident occurring. And, thankfully you might not see them for long periods of the year, but when you do need them and when you do see them, they are there. And it's a point I just wanted to make as well this morning, just we'll have the opportunity on air. I would really, really, really ask people not to do any burning at this time of year. Legally, you're not supposed to be doing it. But there are temptations for people to maybe try and burn back old grass on the hill or whatever the case may be. There might be people trying to burn old rubbish or old twigs, whatever the case may be. Please, please, please do not do it during this period of heightened weather alert, because as we've seen at a number of instances this week, as I said, we had one in Letterkenny, one in Clonmany overnight. There was another minor one in Carndonagh earlier this morning, and then we had one out in Ironmore as well in the last 48 hours. Really, really important that people do not do that. And the other point that I'd really like to make as well is really, really important point, Donal. If someone notices a wildfire, if someone notices a fire starting, don't wait until it expands to a point where it's going to be much more difficult to knock down. At the first opportunity, call 999, call 112. Ask for the fire service to be deployed, give the address and we'll respond. There was this fear that whoever calls it in would be charged the bill and all the rest of it. That's not the way the system works. Our objective is to ensure that we protect life and property. Our objective is to ensure that we get out there as quickly as we possibly can. So I would appeal to anyone, if they see anything at all, don't second guess yourself. If in doubt, call the emergency services. We won't give out to you if it turns out to be a false alarm. We won't give out to you if you've done something with good intent. But please, please, please call us at the earliest possible opportunity.
And the other thing is, in terms of personal responsibility, we all hold a responsibility, not just not to light fires, but even things as simple as a discarded cigarette butt or a portable barbecue. And I know in the past portable barbecues have been issues as well, and maybe this is the sort of day and the sort of weekend where you're thinking, maybe it's time to get the charcoal out, and maybe a lot of us will go into our local supermarket and buy one or two of these portable barbecues and have a great barbecue. And with those, very often we may think they're done, we may think they're spent, when the truth is they're not.
Yeah. Look, the reality, Donal, is that most fires are started deliberately. That's the reality of the world that we live in. Now, many of those fires are not malicious and with intent. They're done with good intent. They're just trying to maybe get rid of some rubbish, or they're trying to maybe, as I say, burn the hill to get the grass growing, or whatever the case may be. But they're not done with a malicious intent. Some would be, a very small number of them. And then, as you say, particularly around bank holiday weekends, or when people are out and about going to the beaches, maybe visiting the countryside, people might have barbecues, or they might discard flammable materials, whatever the case may be. Again, just think twice. Don't do that, because the damage that this does to our environment, and ground nesting birds at this time of the year, wildlife that are trapped within fence lines and all the rest of it, it's horrendous. It really, really is horrendous. So this isn't a victimless crime. It's not just the hill that's been burned. It is causing huge damage to our wildlife and causes substantial challenges to ourselves as a fire service in trying to manage them. So look, the key messages are, look, A, don't burn. And secondly, if you see a fire, please call us at the very earliest opportunity at 999 or 112.
And just to confirm, that incident on the hill at Clonmany there, it's under control. It's close to being out. There are still units on the ground there, and it's in the final stages, and hopefully that'll be damped down in the coming hours, and it shouldn't pose any more of a problem. Obviously, you and your colleagues are going to be keeping an eye on the situation, Gary, over the coming days and indeed weeks, but with a reasonably good forecast into the weekend as well. Obviously, the message to people is, please be very, very careful out there. Gary, all the best to you, and most importantly, all the best to your teams that are out there, and a great big thanks to all of those who worked overnight and continue to work this morning to keep those homes and those individuals in that area safe. Gary, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Donal.
Our pleasure. That's Gary Martin there, who is, as we say, Director of Services with Donegal County Council, with responsibility for emergency services. And it's a story that we get every year, that whole issue of gorse fires and wildfires. And it always does seem to be around this kind of late April into early May when it happens. And the weather at the moment is absolutely prime weather for this to happen. Just want to take a few of your comments before we go for a break. Caller says, with regards to Senator Eileen Flynn, I feel sorry for the Senator. No one deserves abuse, but people were entitled to complain, as she accused all who waved the flag as far right and fearful. There is a big difference between debate and insult and hatred. And I think this is where we're coming in here. Another comment, it says, it's amazing watching what's unfolding in front of our eyes and ears. The protesters had great support and coverage. It's so blatantly obvious now that the propaganda machine has kicked in to blacken they and anyone who attended or waved a flag couldn't let it be seen that the people were united. The response to that, caller, is quite simple. And the response is that the vitriol that has been placed under what Senator Flynn said was vitriol. It was that. It was vitriol. It goes way beyond comment. It goes way beyond debate. Absolutely anything that Senator Flynn says is open to debate. Anything that a politician says is open to argument. It's open to reasoned debate. It's open to argument. And it is absolutely the right of everybody to challenge what somebody says. Absolutely. You can challenge what Senator Flynn says. You can challenge what I say. You can challenge what anyone says. That's absolutely our right and is fundamental to involvement in a democracy. However, when you get to a point that it goes beyond reasoned debate and goes into areas of vitriol, hate and perceived threat, that is a whole new, different ballgame. I want to tell you a Revolut card was found on Thursday in the Calhaim mountaintop area of Letterkenny. If you believe that Revolut card may have been yours, I'm going to give you a number you can call. It's 086 398 4802. That's 086 398 4802 if you believe that a Revolut card found in the Calhaim mountaintop area of Letterkenny may be yours. I want to go to line one because we're joined by Will Mitchell, who is a waste prevention officer with My Waste. Will, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
We're hearing a lot today about a new campaign to help retailers take the final step in fully removing 10 banned single-use plastics from the sale and supply chain. Single-use plastics, it's been one of the big debates of the current era. How close are we to fundamental change?
Very close. This campaign is really about getting the last few remaining retailers to check their stocks by downloading our free toolkit on mywaste.ie/SUP and just check stocks and make sure that none of these 10 banned items have found their way through. So what we found with our research is that behaviour is actually ahead of awareness. So while only 50% of the businesses that we surveyed were aware of the regulations banning these particular 10 banned items, that only 4% are still supplying them. So we're really close to getting rid of these.
And in terms of these items, tell us what they are. Give us an indication so that, that we may recognise them when we're next in our shop.
Sure. It's a list of 10. So it's single-use plastic cutlery, cotton buds, chopsticks, drink stirrers, polystyrene food and drinks containers, plates, balloon rods, straws, and all oxo-degradable plastics. Now, if any of those don't mean anything to you, again, if you visit mywaste.ie/SUP, there are pictures of them there.
Yeah, and of course, we're all used now at this point, if we're buying coffee at a petrol station or whatever, the stirrers almost inevitably now are wooden, and that's obviously absolutely fine. That is compostable, etc. It's when it used to be the old plastic stirrers, if I recall correctly, there used to be a little hole at the bottom of them as well to assist with the stirring. Haven't seen that for a long time, I'm glad to say. So they're the items we need to be looking out for. In terms of sanction, there's not been a lot of talk about sanctions against premises or businesses that still offer them and still use them. Is it time perhaps to, in certain cases, move perhaps away from the carrot and more toward the stick?
I think there's value to both. There are fines there are potential fines for those bringing SUPs, these banned single-use plastics, into the country. Perhaps that's something that could be brought in and looked at a little bit more yet. But as I said, this campaign is really about making sure that the retailers use our free toolkit to make sure that they're not stocking them and supplying them.
And you're embarking on a publicity campaign as of today to really bring this into the public consciousness. So presumably we can expect to see newspaper advertisements, radio advertisements, whatever, social media clips as well. That's going to bring this into the public focus, and more perhaps it's going to make us aware of the situation and what can be done.
That's right, yeah. We're very much focused on the retailer side of things this time, and thankfully we have great support from industry bodies. So IBEX, CSNA, Retail Excellence Ireland and RG Data are all encouraging their members to download and use our toolkit.
Is there a reluctance on the part of people to mention this if they're in a premises? And it almost goes back to that there's an old thing about the Irish would never send back a meal in a restaurant or would never complain about a meal in a restaurant. Are we equally reluctant to perhaps say to somebody in a premises, if we come across this banned single-use plastic, to go, excuse me, are you aware that? Or is there more? Should there be more impetus on us as citizens to actually be more proactive and say it?
Well, I think you're right on both counts there. I think there is probably a reluctance for anybody to speak up and say, oh, by the way, did you know you shouldn't be doing this? I think that's innate in all of us. But likewise, we should be taking that step because the vast majority of us are trying to avoid these single-use plastics. And the vast majority of us are concerned about climate change and environmental protection. So it is definitely time to speak up when we do see these instances.
Will Mitchell, Waste Prevention Officer with My Waste. As we said, that campaign is being launched today, backed by Retail Ireland, CSNA, Retail Excellence Ireland and RG Data. It's supporting retailers in completing the transition away from those 10 banned single-use plastic items. We can expect to see a lot more about this in the coming days. But for now, Will, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
We'll take a short break.
The Greg Hughes Show with Letterkenny Credit Union, powering your plans with fast digital loans. Apply online or through our app in minutes and get funds straight into your current account. Easy, quick and convenient. And our digital offering perfectly complements the friendly face-to-face service you know and trust.
Refresh your home with Ramelton Decorating Centre. Now open on Shore Road. We've got paint, wallpaper and all your painting supplies. We also offer interior and exterior painting, plus small repairs. Visit Ramelton Decorating Centre or call 085 113 1021 today. Your home makeover starts here.
There's a deal for every basket this week at Dunnes Stores. Enjoy an easy midweek meal with Old El Paso range. Mix and match any 3 for $2. Reach for a snack with Tato Occasions sharing range. Now half price. And save on your favourite wines with Santa Rita's Sauvignon Blanc, Yellowtail Pinot Grigio and 19 Crimes Red Blend, now €10 or less. Plus, save more with your 10 off 50 voucher. Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Vouchers can be used in next grocery shop. Excludes alcohol. Please drink sensibly.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
Looking for the best rates on foreign currency? Visit Bureau Express on Lifford Road, Strabane, and now also at Da Vinci Complex, Colmore Road, Derry. We offer special rates for commercial customers, competitive with banks on currencies like euro, sterling and dollars. With 60 currencies and card facilities, we're your one-stop shop. Bureau Express on Lifford Road, Strabane and Colmore Road, Derry.
The Clonmany Agricultural Show. Save the date this summer, 4th and 5th of August, for the Clonmany Agricultural Show. A great family day out. Get your tickets now for the Monster Draw with €100,000 in prizes. First prize a Valtra tractor or Skoda Kodiaq car. Second prize a 500cc quad or €10,000, plus 8 other cash prizes. Tickets at clonmanyshow.com or from any committee member.
Thinking of changing your car? Waiting for the right deal? Highland Motors have a massive one-week stock clearance sale on right now, which includes a great selection of makes and models, ready to drive away and all reduced in price. Don't miss out on some great car deals at Highland Motors Mountaintop Letterkenny. See highlandmotors.ie.
The Greg Hughes Show with Letterkenny Credit Union, offering flexible mortgages up to €600,000 with no hidden fees or charges. Whether you're buying your dream home or thinking of switching your mortgage, make the move to your local, trusted credit union. Learn more at letterkennycu.ie.
It's happening today, Friday, the Cope Builders Providers Home and Garden Open Day from 9 to 3. Enjoy exclusive discounts, live demos, prizes, giveaways and refreshments. Call in, save big, get inspired and meet the Dulux dog. Today, Friday at the Cope Builders Providers Dunlow.
Great special offers this weekend at Meehan's over Foe. Men's jeans now half price, only €25. Men's shirts 25% off, with selected polos and hoodies 20% off. Ladies jeans only €29. And there's 20% off selected ladies diesel and rant and rave fleeces. This weekend at Meehan's over Foe.
We all bring a different kind of energy to our home energy upgrades. Will it not cost a fortune energy? That's why SSE Electricity brings up to €37,000 in SEAI grants deducted up front. And as Ireland's leading one-stop shop, we manage it all, and we can help you access the Home Energy Upgrade Loan Scheme too. Book your free consultation today. SSE Electricity, a different kind of energy. Grants offered are provided by the Government of Ireland through the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. Terms and conditions apply to the Home Energy Upgrade Loan.
At Centra, we're bringing a little Naples to Navan, a little Milan to Monkstown, and a little Rome to Rosslare with our Italian event, with great offers like Dr. Ucca Ristorante Pizza selected range €2 each, Rumo Pasta selected range €2 each, and Bellorante Italian wine range €8 each. Centra, live every day. Enjoy alcohol sensibly.
Tackle your garden the easy way with Donegal Town Hardware Spring Sale. Grab our shovel and brush bundle for just €40. Save €11. Stock up with Westland Jack's Magic Compost. Buy 3, get 3 free for only $23.95. And don't miss Ron Seal Shed and Fence Paint. 2 for €20. Refill pouches just $5.99. Get more for less this spring at Donegal Town Hardware.
Paddy McGill Machinery Sales Ballyshannon. Stockists of Kuhn Farm Machinery, including balers, mowers and tedders. Also supplying SIP rakes, Connor slurry equipment, Fleming equipment, Marigon mowers and Agrimaster mulchers. New for 2026. Wiley grass toppers, Nugent bale equipment and NC pumps. Ready to upgrade? Call Paddy McGill Machinery Sales Ballyshannon on 086 329 8417.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhinney's. Discover the latest styles from your favourite women's wear brands, including Joseph Ribkoff, Naya, Wee, Manari and more. Explore the collection in-store or shop online today at mcelhinneys.com.
And it'll be dry across the region today with sunny spells, top temperatures 14 to 18 degrees Celsius with light to moderate southeasterly winds. Staying dry tonight with clear spells, becoming chilly with lowest overnight temperatures 1 to 6 degrees Celsius, light easterly or variable breezes. Some showers moving northward over the region tomorrow morning. But there will be a fair amount of cloud with some sunny intervals in the afternoon. Afternoon and evening should be dry apart from the odd light shower. Top temperatures on Saturday 13 to 16 degrees Celsius, and we can expect to see some light variable breezes tomorrow as well. I just want to remember that everyone is being invited to fondly remember through song and prayer the O'Donnell family, Sharon, Joanne, Adrian, Kevin and their babysitter Noreen. Their 40th anniversary mass will take place in St Eunan's Cathedral at 4 o'clock on tomorrow Saturday, and a remembrance concert supported by the town choirs on Sunday afternoon with special guests at 3 o'clock in St Eunan's Cathedral, followed by refreshments in Sculwherrigan Small, and all are welcome. I also want to just mention, before we go to Shannon for the Scroll Patrol, Highland Radio Bingo jackpot now sitting at €15,800. Books only €5 each, can be bought at stores all over the country or here at Highland Radio. And recent wins with books bought in Maple Castle, Finn, Lunchbox, Buncrana, Ivan Brown's in Manor Cunningham, Barclays, Rafo, Supervalue, Buncrana, Mace in Kilmacrennan and Callahan's in Newton Cunningham. So winners all over the county. Now let's go over and say good morning to Shannon Wilkin. Shannon, how are you?
How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Let's talk about what's making the news in social media this week, and we start with Justin Bieber.
So Justin Bieber has had a bit of a revival recently. He featured at Coachella and everyone was calling it Bieberchella. He's reflected a lot recently on growing up in the spotlight, his mental health journey, all that. But he's got a beautiful song out at the moment called Hallelujah, and it has lyrics in it for being thankful for his mom, his family, all that. So what people are doing online is using this audio and telling people what they're thankful for. So, Donal, what's your hallelujah? What are you thankful for?
What am I thankful for? I am thankful for health, and I'm thankful for the weather, and I am thankful for the fact that we're able to sit here and talk about Justin Bieber.
Exactly, it's a simple thing. So if everyone wants to reflect today on
this
what
I
they're
presume
happy
is
about.
different to Leonard Cohen.
Yeah.
song, the Hallelujah song by Leonard Cohen.
It's
a
different.
different song, yeah. That's grand. Talk to me. Oh, that's very different to Leonard Cohen.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Coachella thing, I did see some commentary on the Coachella thing that people felt it was a bit of a lazy performance. He just turned up and just did a bit and then left. They were expecting, I think, a bit more.
Yeah, so apparently he was reading off a YouTube screen the whole time, but then I saw other people defending Justin that because he didn't own his own music back in the day, he was using his own music that he'd reproduced, so that's kind of where that came from. But yeah, not much of a performance. I heard a lot of people say as well, Sabrina Carpenter didn't give a lot of energy to her performances. It was like she didn't really want to be there. It was half an effort.
Interesting, so Justin doesn't own his own stuff. That happened to Taylor Swift, didn't it? And then she re-recorded everything. So you're now supposed to buy the Taylor version of what she's done.
Yeah, Taylor's album.
And Taylor's versions have now made her the most streamed artist of all time.
Yeah, this was actually a funny one. I was looking through a list of the songs that are the most streamed. So in the top 20, the lowest year I could find was the year 2000. So that was Yellow by Coldplay. And Chris Martin was actually sitting in a studio in Wales and he was just, oh my goodness, what am I going to write about? And he saw the Yellow Pages and apparently that's where it all came from.
Great song.
But it made me think as well, if we looked back on the most popular songs of all time that you've like heard, I wonder what would make it. I think Fleetwood Mac would definitely be there. Bruce Springsteen. What else do you think?
I would say Queen Bohemian Rhapsody would be there.
Definitely.
And you're going to get your classics. Your Elton John's going to inevitably be there. Your Beatles are going to be there. If you were looking at songs, Bohemian Rhapsody is the one I would say, the song I would like, that I would expect most to be there. Possibly Fleetwood Mac's Go Your Own Way. But then again, when you come to an artist like Fleetwood Mac, they have so many songs. Everyone's going to have a sort of a favourite Fleetwood Mac song. For me, it's either Go Your Own Way or The Chain. For you, it might be Songbird. For somebody else, it might be Little Lies. Somebody else, it could be Tusk. It could be anything. There's so many to choose from.
There was a lot of Fleetwood Mac stuff has been back in the media as well. Again, they take the audio and they put it on TikTok. So you'll never get away from the sound of The Woman That Loves You. You know, Stevie Nicks, whenever she sang that. So they've been doing that with like every character ever. So they've done one for Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio. They're saying that that's why he's such a womanizer, because he loved her the whole time and he never got over it.
But aren't we at the point now where hits are going to be dependent on TikTok, social media? I mean, I remember Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill became huge for a while again, and it turned out that was because it featured in Stranger Things. And perhaps the single biggest sort of use of that, where something's used in media, is I remember when I was in the 80s, I was working on a pirate radio station in Waterford, and there was a band called Journey, and they had two songs that we used to play a bit because they were a bit popular, but they never really went on anywhere. One was called Who's Crying Now? The other one was called Don't Stop Believing. And I've been aware of Don't Stop Believing as a song for 40 years. And then Sopranos, closing scene, Journey's Don't Stop Believing gets played over it, and suddenly Don't Stop Believing is now one of the biggest songs in the world of all time.
Yeah,
and that's totally Dancing Sopranos.
It's everyone's karaoke song as well, isn't it? Even though nobody can actually hit the notes.
I would not chance that in a million years. We tried singing it with the ukulele orchestra once, and believe you me, Shannon, we will never try that again. Shannon, I am afraid, and I know we wanted to talk about the Kardashians and Katy Perry. We don't have time because time has totally caught up on me, and I really do apologise for that, Shannon, because there was just so much on the programme today. We're going to have to cut it there because we have come to the end of the show. Thank you, Shannon, for everything you've done.
Thank you, Donal.
Thank you, everything you've done today and this week as well, because you've been instrumental in making sure that I didn't make a complete dog's dinner of this. Caroline, as ever, fantastic, produced, looked after me, and to you, Caroline, thanks as well. Greg's back on Monday. John's up next around the Northwest. For myself, Donal Kavanagh. Have a great day.
The Greg Hughes Show with Letterkenny Credit Union. New to borrowing or haven't borrowed in a while? Our welcome loan is here for you. Borrow up to €50,000 at just 5.95% APR.